Good evening, and welcome to this rehearsal of Westchester Oratorio Society. Let's get right to it. We start with the Forêt Cantique de Jean Racine, and the person who makes it all possible, as always, is our fine accompanist, Mun-Tzung Wong. Let's say hi to Mun-Tzung. She's coming to us live from New York, as I am too. Okay, let's get right to it. From the top. 3, 4. Basses, fair bégal. Tenor. Alto. Soprano, stay soft. Little crescendo. Keep crescendoing. And less here. Full value. Soft répond. Breath here. Soft, soft. Stay soft. Now just mezzo forte. Alto, soprano. Now forte. Full value. Soft. Tenor. Stay soft, alto. crescendo, and forte. Stay strong, forte. Subito. Espressivo. Full value. Et deux. Don. Full value. Kire. Tu. Ne. And slow here. Okay, well done, Mun-Tzung. Sounds terrific. Now let's go back and talk briefly about these sort of final moments here, starting, where is this? Starting with the basses on Re, Sois, Le, Chant. For those using the online score, it's the bottom of page 15. Important here that we stay piano. It's easy to sing a little bit louder here than we think, but keep it very, very soft. Reçois les chants. And for the R, for the basses, let's go for a schwa sound. Everybody has this, but it starts with the basses. Reçois les chants, and plenty bright with the chant, even brighter than A. Les chants qui gloire. And for basses here, and everybody else who has this, this is offria, offria. And careful not to accent the fricative of offria. It's just a really flip of the R. Offria, something very subtle but important. Then gloire. I think we're missing an I there for the basses. Gloire. We end with schwa. And then immortelle. And for the telle, everybody, we go for the uppercase E. Telle. And then A. Okay, in these bars here that we're talking about, we begin the crescendo at the top of the page in the second bar, and careful that this crescendo is over the course of 2 bars, not too much too soon. Ta gloire immortelle. We take a breath here, and after that breath we should be definitely at mezzo forte plus. Et de te. Don qui retourne. And I like to remind myself, top of page 17, that we stay forte. Carry through. Don qui retourne all the way into the next bar. And it's not until that next bar that we have this beautiful subito pianissimo moment. But so that we don't retreat too much, let's just call it subito piano. Everybody breathe here, except sopranos. Carry on sopranos. And then take an 8th breath. And then the A, de. So sopranos really, at the end of your note, is when we switch to the subito. So it's forte, forte, soft, breath. So a lot happening there in a short amount of time in the soprano part. Then, going on page 18, this crescendo here, we start very soft on piano, only up to mezzo piano. It's easy to get caught up in the moment and just go, don qui, too much. Yeah, just something subtle. Don qui retourne, couple. One last thing, then we'll sing it again. And that is the rhythm at the top of the page in the second bar. Tourne, couple. So careful not to conform to the triples in the accompaniment. Tourne, couple. Yeah. One other note about the pronunciation here. I like to get rid of these internal M's and N's because we really don't pronounce them in sung French. The proper way is tourne, couple, so that we're not tempted to go comb, like you comb your hair. Not here. Not comble, couple. Okay, let's go back now to re, swa, ki, sho. Where's that? Top of page, I'm sorry, bottom of 15. Bottom of page 15. Re, swa, le, sho. But let's start with the bass, okay? And 1. Soprano. Now little crescendo, little more. Breathe. Key. Hold on. No breath. Call. Subito. Espressivo, just a little crescendo. Call play. Full value. A, deux, te. Full value. Qui retourne. Excellent. Okay, a few words about these final moments here. On top of page 20, it's critically important that we take in lots of air. So I'm a big fan of writing this into the score. Breathe. Yeah, because you sometimes forget. You think, oh, I have a whole beat to breathe, no problem. And then you realize you have 2 or 3 bars and not enough air. So put there, breathe, and then in these final bars, if you have to breathe, then just stagger your breathing. In other words, don't breathe when your neighbor breathes. I know you're at home alone right now, but when we come together again, this will be much more important. Qui retourne. Don't breathe on the bar line, breathe somewhere else. No, breathe somewhere else, and then call play. And like I said before, I like to actually cross out the M because we don't pronounce internal M's and N's in sung French. It's just tourne, call play, and then the blé here. Careful not to get too complacent at the end on call blé. It's not comblé, but comblé, blé, a. So I put in the Italian E there, comblé. Can we try those final bars, Mun-Tzung, from top of 20? Qui retourne. So why don't we start right at the beginning of the bar so there's time to breathe, okay? Go ahead, and breathe. Hold on, stagger your breathing. Call blé. Great. All right, now let's go way back to Répond sur nous. This is kind of the B section of the piece, and that's on page 8 in this score, but probably somewhere a couple of pages into your edition. Répond sur nous. And a couple of pronunciation things that I've said before. Dolce, don't worry about that so much. Just put piano or maybe even piano plus. We don't want to be afraid of these parts. We want there to be some substance to the sound. Répond. Yeah, nice bright A. Su with the umlaut. Nous, le feu de ta grâce, puissante. Que tout l'enfer. We talked about these before. Que tout l'enfer. Now, in these bars with the crescendo, like at the end of the piece, we want to mitigate the crescendo over 2 bars. So not too much too soon. Build the tension. Que tout l'enfer. And there is our forte on fer. Fui. Love that. Make sure there's a lot of air in the word fui. Fui. Also, de ta voix. We've talked about this before as well. After de ta voix, everybody lift. So I would turn it into an 8th note here for all the parts so that we all phrase together. Okay, let's go back to Répond sur nous. This is bottom of page 8. Right on the entrance. 2 and 3. Carry through. Breathe here, breathe. Crescendo little by little. Crescendo. Everybody phrase. D. Dinam. Languissante. Now mezzo, mezzo. Alto. Soprano soft. Articulate. Full value. Now forte. Full value. Bass. Tenors articulate. Asa. Asa. Porte. Benir. Stay soft. Reçoit. Bass. Re. And now crescendo little by little. Now forte and stay strong. Chi ritorna couple. Rhythm. Soft. Espressivo. Carry through. No breath. Full value. Et deux. Full value. Kira, air. Stagger your breathing. Continue to stagger your breathing. Couple. And we hold on to the end. Okay, thank you, Mun-Tzung. It was fantastic. Let's move on to the Requiem, and we'll start where we left off last week with movement 4, Pie Jesu, but alto tenor bass, don't go anywhere, definitely sing along. Just make sure that we don't sing along in the performance. In fact, I like to put in my score like this, you know, don't sing. Yeah, do whatever we have to do to make that happen. But in rehearsal, of course, it's perfectly fine. And I think actually we can benefit pretty greatly from singing pieces and learning pieces that are not native to our voice. Even if it doesn't fit our voice, it's good to know the repertoire and what's out there, and certainly good to know a piece beyond being a passive listener. You know, there's nothing like getting inside a work, singing it, studying it, playing it. It can only help to learn, help us to learn, I guess, by osmosis, by total immersion, sort of the deeper meaning of the piece. And such is the case with this, one of the standard soprano solo pieces. Okay, Pie Jesu. And go ahead, you can start on your own. Everybody. We taper off. A little more sound here. And breathe. Full value. Lots of air. Now a little crescendo here. Sam. And like an echo. Big sound here. Soft here. And slow here. Okay, so I'll talk about this just briefly because this is not a choral movement, but I think there are some things worth noting and sort of piggybacking on what I spoke about last time. Some of the markings are still in the score. At the opening, it's just very, very soft, okay, but not too soft. I have mezzo piano in here. There should be some substance to the sound, but keep it very light. Whenever I hear this, I always think sort of the treble sound. You know, the treble choir, maybe a boys' choir, if you will, but very, very light, can have some vibrato, but something that's very sort of innocent and transparent. The breathing is pretty well marked here. So at the end of the phrase, at the bottom of the first page, just taper off the sound. I think the eighth note tied over is in there to tell us, just taper off the sound, kind of an inexact ending to that phrase. Going on, a little more sound at letter A with expressive elements like the crescendo. Dona, make sure that we sing dona and not dona. If we sing it too dark, dona ends up being kind of out of tune. Do, na, e is nice bright sound. Requiem. I think one of the most important elements of this movement, and we see this in other composers too, like Brahms, that is the composer uses dynamics to enhance the piece. Not so much variation in the notes. Brahms does a lot of that, but not necessarily every time, but variation in the dynamics. So we sing a phrase, mezzo piano or piano, and then the next statement of the phrase is very soft. And I think the more we can take that to the extreme, the more effective it is. Such as the case at letter B. We have the statement with the diminuendo, soft the second time, and then at letter C, on sempiternam, sempiternam re, just an echo of what was there before. Okay, that's enough on that movement. Let's go on now to Agnus Dei. Movement number 5 on page 40 in my score. Agnus Dei. Okay, 2 and 3. Tenor. Breathe. Big sound. Anus. Crescendo. Tenors again. Soft. Full value. And full value. Little cesura, and then like the opening, and Requiem. Full value. Now crescendo. And then tempo. Okay, excellent, excellent. Great. And then we have a little instrumental part at the end. Let's talk about, go back to the beginning, talk about this movement, because it's one of the most varied movements in terms of texture and style. Something that I mentioned about Fauré in the lecture that I gave a couple of weeks ago is that I think one of his great gifts was to incorporate abrupt harmonic shifts with ease and finesse in a way that one doesn't even notice that it happened. I think if other composers had tried to include some of the harmonic ideas, they'd be rather jarring. But people like Fauré and Duruflé, maybe it's a French thing, I don't know. Ravel certainly very good at this, and Debussy, probably the king of this, is able to move from key to key rather serenely, and this movement is a case in point. It's a double-edged sword, though. Along with that comes some more difficulty in terms of the pitches, and that's why it's important to ultimately listen to the accompaniment, in this case the piano or the orchestra or the organ, so that we get our notes. So back at the beginning, starting with the tenors, make sure that this anus here is plenty bright, otherwise it can sound a little bit strained. Again, think of the treble sound like we talked about in the Pie Jesu, so that everything here is very, very light. Notice it says dolce espressivo, expressive, but I like to put in plain English, just very, very light. That reminds us to never get too loud or too heavy in these moments. Top of 41 on the D, diminuendo slightly, and just cut off here somewhere. I would say full value, but it doesn't have to be so exact if we diminuendo. D. The important thing is that we breathe so we can go on to do. Do, na, a, e, is. I would say crescendo just up to mezzo forte here at the very most. This is not a big moment for the section. And then bottom of the page, the same idea, a little diminuendo on M, and just let the note trail off here. Doesn't have to be exact. Re, e, qui, e, m. Oh, re, qui, and that'll be a nice touch there. Okay, at letter B, Mun-Tzung, could we hear just the individual parts? I know it's only 2 notes, but the individual parts at letter B, and Mun-Tzung will play each part at letter B with on use. Listen here. And then bass. Great. And alto and bass, I would get rid of these half notes. They're just confusing. There's a little mixture of additions here. I'm not sure why they're there, but we get rid of those notes. Now let's go on, Mun-Tzung. Let's hear the soprano part of the next page, starting top of 42. Great. Now the alto part. Good. The tenor part. And the bass. Good. Let's go on now, starting with the soprano part on qui tollis. Pick up to the bottom of the page. Going on, pe. Great, let's go back now to the alto part. The same thing, altos pick up to bottom of 42. Qui tollis. Great, and then the tenor part, same thing, tenors bottom of 42 with the pickup. Similar to the soprano part there. And then finally basses, bottom of 42. And we have our little divisi there, one of the rare divisi moments. Altos, just note at letter C, it is a half note. I don't think we need to re-articulate the na, ah there. Just na will do just fine. All right, let's go tutti now. Back to letter B as in Brahms. And let's start actually 1 before B. Okay, here's 1 before Brahms. 2 and 3. Sure. And actually, good stopping point here. We talked about this with the Hosanna last week, and that is you hear your note actually just before you enter here, but careful, choir, not to enter with the accompaniment. All right, so you'll hear 1, 2, chord, and then everybody comes in. So I would put, like we did with the other movement, wait, but also maybe an arrow down at the accompaniment that shows us that there's the note just before you come in. Okay. 1 before letter B as in Brahms again. All right, 2 and 3. And. Breath. Do. Excellent. Okay, a couple more things about this and then we'll sing it again. And that is at the top of page 42, after the crescendo on E, again, we let the note taper off slightly, but basically full value to the end of 2. All right, de, e. So we have only an eighth note to breathe there, so lots of air in the middle of that bar. Then bottom of the page, I would circle the piano and make sure that this is soft. Remind ourselves piano, little crescendo, and then the second bar of letter C stays strong. So I put either forte or strong here just to remind ourselves. In compositions where there's a lot of back and forth with dynamic variation, it's loud here, it's soft here, it's easy to get into the pattern, but the composer sometimes pulls a little trick on us and continues the dynamic. So be sure to write in the forte in that moment. The bottom of the page, again, the cutoff, just trail off the note, little diminuendo, cut off close to the end of 2, M, and we close the lips on the M. Let's see here, and then we're back to the tenors. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to letter A as an apple. It's apple picking season after all, so why not? Okay, here's the pickup to letter A, starting with the tenor. 1 and 2. Okay. Yep, letter A with the pickup. All right, 2 and go. Trail the note off. Wait. Crescendo. Stay strong. Soft. Forte. And stay forte. Forte. Tenor. Breathe here, sem. Okay, so a quick word about these moments here. This is a transitional moment, and one of those, again, moments where foray moves into a different harmonic region with total ease, but it has to be treated with great care in order for it to be effective. So tenors, top of 45, full value, so there's a handoff to the sopranos on lux. There's brilliant text painting here with lux and that here's the light. Lux. Okay. Leading up to that tenors, back to your entrance before letter D. It's as before, espressivo. Okay, so I would put at least mezzo piano here, mezzo piano plus. It gives us somewhere to go on the crescendo at letter D. Make sure the do, na is plenty bright, do, na. And not too much crescendo. Let's just say mezzo piano plus at letter D. A lot of ebb and flow here. Sempiternam re. Make sure that the sempiternam is plenty bright. Technically, it's the sa, but a little closer to A. Sempiternam. Flip the R on the requiem. And then sopranos on lux. Lux. Make sure that it's not too pucker, technically lux, but more lux, lux, so that it's in tune. Okay, could we start after letter D, see the bottom of page 44, where the tenors have sempiternam requiem. After letter D, with the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth bar of letter D. All right, see that on sempiternam, starting with tenor. All right, 2 and 3. Full value, lux. And. Excellent. Okay, let's talk about this really quickly. Back at letter E. So we have double piano, and I've talked about this before, unless you have many singers singing a piece, sometimes double piano can be counterproductive. So I would actually make this piano so that there's some body to the sound. With a group like Was, I think piano will sound perfectly fine on lux, aeternam luceat eis. Little expressive element here, not too much. I would just say plus. Domine. It's really in line with the pronunciation of the text, so not much has to be done to push it. Just enunciate the text. Domine. And that should work out there. Dolce sempre, I think he means here not to crescendo too much. So just remind ourselves, just soft, medium soft here. Sublime. Fauré at his best. Okay, at letter F, P, us, S, we take a little eighth note breath here for everybody. Cum sanctis, and the crescendo is mitigated over a couple of bars. And I know that it says molto crescendo here, but not too much because we have another crescendo coming up. I think we want bar by bar, poco a poco a poco. We build the tension to one of the strongest parts of the piece coming up in a few bars. Ternam quia pius s, and at the end of our phrase at letter G, full value. And this here, one of the most powerful moments in the accompaniment. These 4 bars here are just spectacular, and Fauré ingeniously brings back the tune, at least the harmony, like the opening of the piece, in only a few bars, and something that requires great skill. Beethoven does it in the Ninth Symphony. Brahms does it in his Ein Deutsches Requiem. If it's done with care, very effective and actually rather nostalgic hearing that part again. Okay, let's get into this moment. Can we start at letter G? All right, we'll hear that. Actually, no, let's go before that. Let's sing what we just sang again. Let's start from letter F. All right, letter F is pius S, just before cum sanctis. Let's start right on letter F. All right, 2 and 3. Stay strong. And full value. And like the opening, and re, and soft, breathe, crescendo, stay forte. And then tempo. Okay, one more note and then we'll move on. One more note here, and that is at letter H. Be sure that we remind ourselves that we start soft, we start piano, and then crescendo. It's very easy to get swept away in the accompaniment, which is fortissimo on the downbeat, but then instantly on beat 2, it's soft with the crescendo. Oh, and one more thing, and then we really will move on, and that is luce. Let's cut off on beat 2, like we did before. All right, let's move on to the next movement now. Libera me. One of the most well-known baritone solos, and I think I mentioned before, it's one of the few solos that I can sing because it's actually in my range. A lot of solos are either too high for me or too low, despite me wanting to sing them. This one, it just works really well, beautiful, lyrical, but it's not only for baritone. Tenors, if you want to sing it, anybody, alto, soprano, you can sing it. We sing the theme anyway later in the piece, so it's good practice. Just be sure we don't sing it in the performance. Okay, Libera me in 2. 1 and 2. Everybody. Very light. Crescendo, crescendo, crescendo. Full value. Everybody, tremens. Faster here. And full value. Everybody. Cut off on the downbeat. Big crescendo and full value. Everybody. And 1. And we sustain till the end. Okay, certainly Fauré at his most ferocious. There's your ad alliteration for the day. Tremendous movement, brilliant use of so many different compositional techniques, things that I've mentioned before, especially at the end when we have the unison. I had mentioned this, that Fauré used this in the string quartet. It's very effective when done sparingly, and Brahms does this as well. Great moment in this piece. Okay, I'm going to work my way backwards here, starting at the end. We'll subdivide 4 bars from the end, and all that means for the choir is just watch for the final mine, do, o, mi, and then tempo. And all you have to do is hold on to the end. Don't have to count even, just sustain. Stagger your breathing. And we end with a very soft, misterioso kind of a sound. Great moment there. Leading up to that, careful that we are not late on the liberame. Soft, but I would say add a little breath to the sound as well. Liberame. Again, it's kind of a misterioso sound. Reminds me of the Verdi Requiem too, which is why Fauré can be plenty ferocious, but soft. Same as the opening of the Verdi Requiem. Requiem. Okay, moving backwards from here, we see the bottom of page 65 where we have these tied notes, maybe different in your score, but let's cut off the tie. So we cut off on the downbeat. Bottom of 65. Off. And every time we have this dotted chord or eighth note, let's overdot slightly. It keeps it exciting. The movement has so many dance-like moments anyway. I think that this will contribute to the dance-like quality to it. It certainly makes it easier to sing. Okay, working our way back at letter K. Again, little overdot here and a slight lift. Even though we're under the slur. Yep. Little expressive element here, not much louder than mezzo forte. At letter J, cut off on the downbeat, just like we did later on in the piece. Now these octaves here, difficult to keep under control, big leap there, but make sure that we stay relatively soft. I'd say it's a little bit impractical to say we can stay absolutely piano in the unison, but do your best to. Certainly using E on ila will help with that. Let's do menda. And going back, okay, so at letter H, when we change tempo, we go back to the original moderato. Here on is, for alto tenor bass, take a breath, even though tenors we have a rest in the next bar, breathe with the alto and the bass. Is, lu. Yeah, so we have really just a very quick, almost an eighth note breath. E, lu. And a very soft, soft S. We overdot here. Lu, che, ade, lu, che, ade, is. I think that's about it. Yes. Okay, let's go back to the fast section at the Pio Mosso. So here, I talked about this before, we have only 2 beats. Da pa 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 di ka si la. Keep it's strong, but keep it very light too. Di ka si la di. Okay, let's start right from the Pio Mosso with a little pickup. Go ahead. And kala. Stay strong. Soft re. Okay, sorry, before we go on, I forgot to mention some key breathing moments here. And that is starting letter F, because we breathe right before F. Valde, breath. Requiem aeternam, breath. After nam. Do, na, e, stop, carry through. Do, mi, ne. But on ne, let's take a tiny little lift here. We need to hear the diminuent. Do, mi, ne, et, lux. So that'll require quite a bit of flexibility in the breathing mechanism. Do, mi, ne, et, lux, perpetua. Quick breath there. Perpetua. Little breath before letter G is a good time to breathe. Ah, luce, at, e. Now, I've been in performances where the choir just, maybe by herd mentality, slows down here, but don't slow down at letter G. Luce, at, east. The conductor might want to slow down slightly before letter H, possibly here, but the bars before that should be in tempo. Luce, at, east. Yeah, I forgot to mention sopranos, full value, all the way to beat 2 in the second bar of letter H. Okay, can we go from letter F for forêt? Top of page 59, see letter F. Okay. 1 and 2. Breath. Full value. Li. Carry through. Breath. Little crescendo. Cut off on the downbeat. Crescendo, yeah? Off. Full value. Lots of air, but soft. Slow here. We hold on to the end. Okay, time flies when you're having fun. That's it for this week, everybody. As always, I'd like to thank our accompanist, Mun-Tzung Wong. Thanks so much. We're clapping for you. Yay. Stand by, everybody, for the Q&A. And if you can't join us for the Q&A, then we'll see you next week. Same time, same place, 7 to 8 p.m. here, live on YouTube. Have a good week. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Hope you had a good rehearsal. I know that I did. It's always wonderful to make music, even though there's a great distance between us and I can't hear you. I know you can hear me, but nonetheless, it's great to imagine better times, and we'll get there soon, back to making music together. Not sure when it's going to be, but I'm very hopeful for the future. A word about the future. Westchester Oratorio is planning another Messiah sing-along. This year it will be live streamed from somewhere in Westchester. We're still working out the details of where that will be, but it most likely will be on Sunday, December the 6th at 3 p.m. So count on it being 3 to 5. And you know me, you know it's going to be done in 2 hours' time. So count on that. It'll be a nice way to spend the afternoon. We'll have some professional soloists as well as great organist play. So a word about the sing-along is this, that if you are interested in sponsoring the event or co-sponsoring the event or contributing to the event, it would be greatly helpful to us. It's going to be a fundraiser anyway, but if you're able to make a donation that could contribute to the cost for that event, there are sort of normal costs of renting the venue and paying for the musicians and paying for the live stream. So if you're able to do that, just let me know. Write me an email at westchesteroratorio@gmail.com or talk to any of the board members. Write us. We'd be very, very grateful for your support for that event. Okay, let's go to the comments. Not too many comments, but there are a mighty few. People seem to be in a good mood, greeting each other. That's great. I think that the comments continue the community aspect of this endeavor. And a word about the comments is feel free also to give feedback and to critique these live streams. You know, this is what you see before you is just kind of my vision and my concept of how I think this works best. But if you have any ideas, or you think I'm talking too much, you can't hear the music, the mix is not right, then let us know in the comments. I think that people will be happy to hear from you and certainly respect that. Many of us have known each other for a long time. So, and you also know that my style of leading is one of inclusion, and I enjoy a dialogue with people. So keep it clean, keep it appropriate, but the comments can be used for feedback as well. Okay, let me just see here if our live call-in is ready. I think it is. So I'm very happy now to introduce one of our newest members of the tenor section, and that's Tim. So let's welcome Tim. Tim, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Sure, Ben. Yeah, thanks for the invitation. Thanks for a fun rehearsal, as usual. What to say? I live in Ridgefield, Connecticut. My wife will be here shortly. Sally is a middle school teacher in Ridgefield, retired now for about a year. And we've had many musical experiences over the years. I am interested in choral singing, even though my instrument is not particularly good. My voice is kind of not a wonderful instrument. On the other hand, I think when I sing next to people that there's a technical term. I'm a laser person or optical scientist, and there's a term in lasers where you have something called an oscillator, and the oscillator starts the tone, and then the amplifier of the laser makes this great power, this magnificent light. When I'm singing, I think of myself as kind of one of the oscillators that's starting the tone, and then my neighbors who have much better voices than I can be the amplifier.
That's a great point. You know, Tim, I didn't know that you were involved in lasers and optics, and now it kind of makes sense because you have some of the best eye contact of any singer I think I've ever worked with. In fact, I think that you look at me more than I look at you. There have been many times where I'm sitting there conducting, looking at the score, and then I look up and there you are. Look down, look up, and there you are. So
background, Ben. That in high school, I was a timpanist.
Mm.
And I was in a really good orchestra in Madison, Wisconsin, and we went on tour all over the place, and it was just a wonderful musical experience. But as timpanist, you must be following everything, and not just timpanists, but also cymbals. So and miscellaneous percussion, which you do not want to play at the wrong time. If those of you who like the Far Side, the Gary Larson Far Side, he has a wonderful musical one. One of my favorites is Harold Screws Up is the name of it. And you see this guy, there's a big orchestra, and it's just about a climax that the conductor's about to point to him, and Harold is holding one cymbal. So anyway, Harold screws up.
Right. There's also a lot of counting involved, obviously, in percussion. So tell us, Tim, what has music meant to you during this pandemic? You talked about, fitting into the section and such a great team player in that regard. Tell us about what music has meant to you since you're away from that and kind of on your own.
Yeah, it's been hard. I'm sure it's hard for everybody in the group, and particularly professional musicians such as you and Mun-Tzung and the orchestra members that you bring together, who are so wonderful to be a part of sometimes. I'm not suffering professionally in the same way that you guys are, but I do suffer from not being together with everyone in the Katona Library at the wonderful rehearsals together. And of course, we can't do that safely right now. But anyway, I think the way you've constructed the remote rehearsals works okay, works well. It's not as good as the real thing, but we can't have that right now. So yeah, I miss the sound of being in the middle of the sound. That's what I miss. Another thing that I've had some experience in is being a church musician. I was an organist for several years in graduate school. My wife was also, and she's very skilled with choral groups as well. And that's kind of how I dipped into choral music, is getting into some of her groups. But I've been a member of a congregational church here in Ridgefield, Connecticut, for, I don't know, 25 years or something like that. And to me, it's such a wonderful spiritual thing to be in the middle of sound, where you're part of it. You're part of this, amazing thing. And not only are you part of the people who are there, but you're also part of this incredible intellectual accomplishment in the music you're singing, and to be able to share in that. And you said it today, Ben, when you get to look inside of it, and you're not just listening to it passively, you're trying to get inside of it. And even if you're not that great, to be in the middle of it is, to me, just thrilling and very motivating.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense, given if you were an organist. I also play the organ a little bit, and Was has been fortunate to have worked with many very fine organists, from Anthony Newman to James Kennerly. I mean, these are the heavy hitters. These are the Michael Jordans of classical music. So it makes sense you feel that way, because one is involved in the sound in a way that you can't be maybe with other instruments. I don't know. One last question, and that is that what can we do to ensure the survival of classical music? I mean, you mentioned singing in WAS and singing in the church, and those are good, but what can we do, not just beyond the pandemic, but for even longer than that? What can we do as musicians, as singers? Give us your thoughts.
I'm not sure I have very profound thoughts. Just do what we can, and try to yeah, contribute where we can to make these events happen. If we have the dollars to contribute some dollars, that's an important piece, but mostly to contribute our presence, just our presence, and whatever we can bring, to bring it and use it and try to participate. So the Handel Messiah is like kind of the epitome of that spirit that makes so many people happy every Christmas. It's not really a Christmas thing, but it's probably more like an Easter thing. But anyway, it's certainly become a holiday tradition for many people, and it is for us.
Great. Well, Tim, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your thoughts. And if you, the singers in WAS, are interested in calling in and giving us your thoughts and just having a conversation, please write me at westchesteroratorio@gmail.com. There's a little bit of structure to it, but we can talk about whatever you want to talk about regarding the music or just life during the pandemic. Like Tim said, the important thing is that we see one another and that we sense each other's presence, because that's what making music is all about. Whether you're a volunteer or a professional, I guarantee you that even if you're a professional musician and make your living exclusively on music, you still crave making music with other people at any cost. There are a few people in the world that can make music on their own and be perfectly content with that. Not too many. I think most people are like Tim, are like me. We need to be together and stick together. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week, every Tuesday, same time, same place, 7 to 8 p.m. here on YouTube, live and on demand. Have a good week.